All right, hey, it's Scott Penfold, and this is another edition of the Loaded Radio podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Going to be joined by Johnny Root a little bit later on in the show. We're going to be talking about pretty much what's going on right now in hard rock and metal, and particularly I think we're going to be talking about the recently announced Pantera tour. I say that in quotes for 2023, possibly some other stuff too. Yeah, we'll see what we can get to. First off, though, I'm going to be talking to Bleeding Through frontman Brandan Schieppati. We're going to talk about the band's new EP. It's called Rage. And yeah, 3-song EP out now featuring songs like Piss You Away, Damage Done, and the title track. So yeah, let's talk about that with Brandan as he joins us now. Brandan, how you doing, man?
Good, thank you.
Well, first off, yeah, let's talk about Rage, man. First off, why the decision to drop an EP instead of go full album with this?
Well, it's kind of just like, to me, like, we spent a lot of time on the last record, and it was something that I feel the record, like, although like I felt like the record was complete, it just was sort of this thing where I feel like just even we got over the record really soon. And it's kind of like, it's an interesting thing where I feel like us just for our creative like process, I kind of just wanted to kind of release as we go. And even though we have a lot of the songs already written and all that kind of stuff, it's more just like, this time I kind of wanted to go about it with just like keeping things fresh every other month and putting out new material. And I'm not saying that like we're kind of like following the trend of how things are kind of moving, but I guess it kind of is following the trend, I guess, to a certain extent. But it's like, it kind of gives us like a little bit of artistic freedom too. Like, we want to do a lot of different things with these songs. Like, we wanted to use different producers for different blocks of songs and do things like split releases and collabs. And this kind of gives us like a lot of like open room to really like explore those options. Cause then we have like some songs and material to work with if an opportunity comes our way to do something different or do something that's like any sort of different from just like putting a record out.
Yeah, and I find that a lot of bands, like you were saying, have been doing that lately too, especially in rock and metal. But I mean, I think it's a cool thing because what happens is you're dropping like a few songs and eventually you do build that album that way, which is cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, there will be like an album of everything that's comprised plus like a bunch of new stuff and like stuff that's exclusive to the actual record, because we want to press things on vinyl. Like, we're kind of old school. So we still like to see our stuff on vinyl, and, you know, we still like the physical copy. And it's just like, it's so funny because, you know, one of my friends brought in the new Spirit Box CD, and I'm just like, where did you even get this CD? He's like, oh, I had to order it. And I'm just like, dude, like, I don't have the attention span, like, to go and buy a CD. And it's kind of just the way it's all going. And it's like, it's interesting. It's so weird to me that like releasing a song now is kind of just like, okay, we released it, like, promote that it's out. And it's like, there's no buildup. Right. And it's like, right. God, I remember like, it was like, we put out a record and we had like 6 months of buildup of ads and videos and teasers and this and that. And now it's like, boom, songs out. And it's kind of like, I mean, I sort of get it because we are kind of, you know, this society is very, you know, what's next. And I think to stay kind of relevant with people, you got to keep crapping out new material because there's so much material out there. There's so many bands, so many releases where it's hard to even keep track. But, you know, it's like, for example, like one of my favorite bands is Soilwork. I had no idea they put a new song out. And it's like, if it wasn't for Spotify, I would have probably not known for like a year. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow, it's just so interesting that way.
Yeah, it's really where music is going these days. It really is such a departure from even going out and lining up to buy your favorite album. It's so different now.
Yeah, it is. It truly, truly is. Like, I'd say that it's kind of not as fun now.
No, it isn't.
That makes sense.
It totally
it's just
does.
Like, what's that?
It totally makes sense. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not as fun. Like, you used to kind of like anticipate a whole record and then get the record and hold the record. And it's almost like one of those things where I age myself out by saying things like that. But just the excitement of like when we used to put out a CD and getting like the first CD and like, you know, even though you know what the record sounds like, you play the CD in your car, you know what I mean? It's like just totally. That whole thing. And now it's like the excitement is like seeing your song on like a playlist. You know what I mean? It's just different. But, you know, we're adapting because it's either adapt or die. And that's kind of like why we're kind of doing the way we're doing it right now. But really, I feel like it just allows us to be a little bit more creative with things.
Tell me about the EP's title track. Tell me about Rage.
Well, that song was sort of like, when I was writing these songs with our producer, Mick, that was a song that was the first song we wrote. And I basically was like, you know what? I don't think anything's going to happen with this song. Like, I'm not feeling it. And then it just kind of like hung around there. And we wrote like about 10 more songs. And then we kind of circled back around, and I started getting like a lot of these ideas for the song, and the lyrics were kind of vibey and dark, and the vibe was very dark. And I'm like, you know what? This might be the fucking song. Like, it kind of turned into like the first one that I wanted people to hear. And it kind of went total 180 from being the song that like I didn't even know would be recorded properly. And I think what it was is, once I started putting like the lyrics to it, it kind of just like played correctly. And it just like the whole kind of ambiance of the song kind of came together and just kind of lended like a really dark kind of atmosphere to the song. And it's a song about like self being, not comfortable like in your own skin, and really feeling that rage to burst out and be the man, or be the person, be the woman, be the whatever, to be that person that you are. And it was a lot of the feelings of that is kind of based around the last 3 years of just what's been going on in society and in our lives of, I think personally for myself, I kind of lost who I was and falling into bad habits of just like things that wasn't me. Like, I was a doer. I was always constantly creating and dreaming. And I just felt stuck for like a bunch of years. And it was like the pandemic took away my music, and it took away my gym, and that I was left feeling like I was nobody. And the lyrics for that song kind of were about just like looking at yourself in the mirror and just ripping that shell off of you and coming out the person you are, like, and feeling that rage. And so I felt with those lyrics, and then kind of the dark time kind of tone of that song, it just kind of fit to be the first song to release.
Yeah, and it's such a great track to lead off with too, I think, man. I really like Piss You Away as well, though. I got to say, Piss You Away is really cool.
Well, that song kind of was like, we always like writing, as much as we'd like kind of writing those like songs that kind of take you on more of a journey. Like, we always kind of like to write those like quick bangers, and Piss You Away is just like, that quick, here we are, circle pit right away. And, just kind of, let's just get this fucking shit going. Right. And that's what that song was. And, the thing that kind of made that song kind of more unique, though, is it's through the song with the choruses. It starts off just like with one track of my vocal singing. And the second time through, it adds like a couple tracks, and it adds like some more like keyboards and stuff in the background. And then the third chorus is, Marta jumps in that chorus, and there's more layers, and it kind of builds up as it goes. And that's kind of why it's the first actual track off like the EP, because it sort of starts at a certain point and kind of builds up as it comes to the end. And really, like, the cool thing about these new songs is, really getting Marta to be on board with being just as much of a vocal person on the choruses as like myself and Ryan. So between the three of us, I've always wanted us to kind of have equal parts in the choruses. And I think that kind of makes a really good thing out of it.
And how have you found the addition of Marta to the collective? Like, how have you found that whole experience?
Well, I feel like before we've used it sparingly, and, I'm not going to say she never wanted to do it, but she really wasn't ever pushing for it. And it was kind of Ryan and I had our thing going on. And then, I started feeling this way on the last record, like on Level Kill All, like, hey, like, Marta needs to be more part of it. And I kind of, from the vibe of these songs that we started going, I told her, I'm like, you're going to sing on every chorus. It's going to be that way now. And I want your voice to be a prominent voice for these things. And I think that people want to hear it. And I think that'll actually help our band kind of like take that next, not step, because just take another step in our sort of like band's career. Definitely. And I think it's fucking awesome, man. I think, like, honestly, like, hearing like the three of our voices kind of together, I'm like, dude, it just brings back feelings. It makes me it makes me have a feeling of when we first started and the struggle that we went through, and just staying together and being like a team. And I think that these songs kind of show that.
Well, yeah, speaking of that too, I wanted to really go back to 2014 and ask you what essentially caused the band to disband at that point.
Well, we were at a point where, we were pretty active still, but you could tell, like, with the members in the band, like, it was, life was happening. Marta wanted to have a kid, and now she has a couple, and, Derek had kids, and Brian had kids, and it just, people were doing other things to kind of work other aspects of their life and kind of build outside of the band, like their careers. And I was doing the same thing because it was really something where, you know, we decided to kind of go more part-time. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? We did that for a couple of years. And then finally I'm like, you know what, guys, like, honestly, I have the opportunity to do something and open a gym. I have a business opportunity where, and, you know, Marta had a business opportunity. So did Brian. It's one of these things where part-time isn't bleeding through. Like, we're not fulfilled with that back then because we were full-time for like over a decade, and it just didn't really fulfill us. And so I basically kind of made the decision and got everybody's graces, and I got everybody to, you know, somewhat agree that we just needed to take some time off and really establish a life outside of bleeding through before we get to the point where we're like in our 40s as we are now, but bleeding through is our only thing. And it's really getting hard. And, you know, you need to set your family up and set yourself up for your future. And, you know, unfortunately our band, although we've had a 22-year career, you know, we never really made the money to support families. You know what I mean? So it was really a point to where I wanted us to go out and establish a career outside of the band. And we always kind of knew that we'd get back together. And when we got back together, it was like perfect, because it was like we refound this love for the music solely, and we didn't see it as a business anymore. It was just connect with the audience, connect with people through like your music, and go back to square one of just writing music just to share it. And that's where we are. And we still get to play some shows. I always tell people we're like vacation core, like we'll do weekends, but don't try to get us to go on a tour, because it's not going to happen. Right. Like a couple shows there, we'll do weekends. But if you're asking us to go on like a month-long tour, this is not going to happen.
Well, what exactly brought you guys back as a band?
I think that we were all kind of getting the itch. We started getting that itch in like about 2000, end of 2016, 17. And we started talking then. And then in about like mid 2017, we started kind of like writing these songs. And I was like, do you guys want to do this or what? And they're like, yeah, it's time. And so we just said, fuck it, let's do it. And it was awesome. It felt like honestly something that we all needed. You know, we needed to kind of get away from it a little bit.
Now, you've said in the past also that Bleeding Through would be classified as a hardcore band and not a metal band. Does this still ring true for you?
Well, I feel like we're more, I guess so, just because of our like early roots and the bands we would tour with, and the fan base that we draw is a good amount of like hardcore kids. But really it's like, we did a lot of metal tours too. And we're finding as we came back, we're more embraced by the metal community, but then still we're asked to play these festivals, which are like hardcore nostalgia festivals. Right. So it's kind of like that, like Josta calls it getting hate breeded. It's like, you know what I mean? Like you've branched out and you've collected this new fan base of metalheads, but the hardcore kids still want you to play like This Is Hardcore and Furnace Fest and all of those things as well. So we're kind of like in that land right now, and which is kind of cool. I feel like we've always had a really diverse fan base of like hardcore, punk, metal, whatever, and that's all good. Yeah, I mean, they're fans, man. I think it's awesome, right? I'll take anybody listening to our music. I don't care who the fuck you are. Totally, man. Right, without them, it's like, what's the point of fucking playing music? Really, you only play it for yourself so long. Yeah, hear you, dude. Now, looking at just you personally, you, in the past, you were managing bands like Al Shall Perish, Tony Danza, Tapdex, Extravaganza. Are you still into any of that, managing bands at all, or is that something that you've let go? Oh, I let go of that. That is something I have tremendous respect for management. Just for the work ethic, for really good managers. There's a lot of really, really bad managers out there. And as much as I wanted to be a very good manager, I didn't have the time for it, because it's definitely something that you cannot do part-time. It's like being a glorified babysitter, but a cool babysitter, right? And you get to like kind of go on this journey with all these bands. But I think at the time that I did it, I was still doing Bleeding Through full on. And it just, it's something that just needed all of my attention, right? It's just, that's what it purely needs. It needs that daily, you know, I'm working for these bands every day. I try to do something for my bands and try to help this band grow. And I started giving myself like anxiety, because I'm like, dude, I'm still trying to get my band to grow. Right. And so I kind of just decided that I wasn't giving a fair shake to these bands. I helped them. I want to say that I helped all of them kind of take like another step, but from there, I kind of helped them find different management, and along they went. which is cool. It was a cool experience, but it's definitely something I have admiration for managers that do a very good job, because you could easily be a manager and do a half-assed job and get a lot of glory for a band.
That's totally so, man. Now, when it comes to Bleeding Through, I mean, future plans, what's coming up in the months ahead for you guys?
Well, we have Tattoo the Earth in Worcester, Mass, and that's in August 27th. Very cool show. Like, Hatebreed, Black Label, Anthrax, one of our favorite bands collectively, At the Gates. We've never played with them. I've never seen them, and we wouldn't have been a band without that band. So we met them and we know them, but we've never played or seen them. So it's kind of crazy. And we also really love Crowbar. And that's another band that we've never played with. And I'm like, oh my God, we're playing with fucking Crowbar. That's just insane. Really cool to be playing shows and like be fans of music, right? It's like, I get to see these cool bands. And then September 9th, we're playing a festival called Blue Ridge in Virginia.
Yep.
That's just a mega festival. Lamb of God's on it. Gojira's on it. A lot of really cool bands. Mastodon. Yeah. I mean, I can't even begin to name the bands. There's like 400 bands. And then late September, we're doing Furnace Fest in Alabama, and that'll be a cool show. We talk about those like nostalgic hardcore throwback shows, and that's definitely one of them for sure. And then after that, we hopefully are set to release even more music around the Furnace Fest. And then we're going to try to kind of do some behind the scenes things, some videos in October. And then in November, we plan to, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but we're planning to play some shows mid-October on the West Coast, like a good string of shows, like about 4 or 5.
Oh, like a mini tour,
like a little mini tour, right?
Nice. That's very cool.
2 of the days we could do because we can actually go home and sleep in our beds. It's kind of weird.
That's it, too. So, awesome. Brandon, thanks so much for your time, man. It's been an awesome talk. I really appreciate it. And you guys rip. I love the new EP, dude. It's awesome.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
Take care, man. All the best.
Bye.
This is Brandon from Bleeding Through, and the new EP is called Rage. 3 killer tracks from an absolutely awesome band. Just love those guys. My name is Scott Penfold. Going to be joined now, though, by Loaded Radio's own Johnny Rude. He joins us live from Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're going to talk about the week that was in hard rock and metal. What's going on there, Johnny?
More yellow.
Hey, dude.
Holy smokes.
Hanoi Rocks guitarist Andy Mccoy. He's just slamming Motley Crue right now over a ton of stuff because, I mean, first off, he's slamming them over their version of events, which led to drummer Razzle Dingley's death like so many years ago. I mean, that's still an issue, obviously, with them. Right. Also discussing the band's relationship with Motley Crue. And he calls Nikki Sixx essentially a liar, saying that the fact that they came out of retirement is just wrong. It just makes them a bunch of Lugans, which I mean, I kind of agree with when they had that big farewell tour. What was it, like 5-6 years ago, 7 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, I saw it. I think it was 2017. And didn't they sit on a stage and sign a declaration of something that will never tour or play together again?
A cessation of touring is what it was.
Yeah.
And it was funny because before they announced the stadium tour, all they did was they blew it up. They blew up the cessation of touring, which is the stupidest thing, I think. It's just so dumb. I mean, you've become so cliche,
Absolutely. I mean, another band has done the same thing, and they've gone on for another 20 years of this never ending touring. And that would be Kiss.
Yeah.
Same thing. But yeah, the Motley thing, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to see it. I got tickets for it. I just heard, Vince is terrible. I mean, it just depends who you talk to, but Vince has been terrible for 30 years. Yeah. So what's the difference?
Right.
What did you expect him to be? Yeah, he's going to sound like he did in 1983. Of course not.
Well, I mean, I got to hand it to him. He did drop some weight because he was getting huge there for a while.
Oh, he was huge. Yeah.
So he did drop some weight.
Yeah.
Apparently he was doing some experimental sort of weight loss regimen thing, which I guess it worked for him. So good.
Jenny Craig.
No, I don't think it was Jenny Craig. It was some kind of thing. No. I remember he did this post online where he did this celebrity weight loss thing. And apparently, I guess he lost a few pounds on it. So,
but he had 3 years to figure this thing out, buddy. He had 3 years to get singing great. If it's your final hurrah, he just doesn't care. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah, just drop the carbs, dude.
Yeah. Pretty much, dude. And the booze.
The booze, yes.
Yeah. I heard, we'll come back to the Andy McCoy thing in a minute. I heard, Poison apparently sounds great. They're great. That's really what I've heard. I've heard Def Leppard is fantastic. And Joan Jett. A lot of people think she's like a cover band or something, man, because so many of her songs have been covered and used in commercials. And but anyways, yes, they say it, like especially Def Leppard and Poison. I've heard if you do what you do, we read some stuff. It's Def Leppard stealing the show as far as sounding good. Yeah. But if you like Motley Crue, you're going to enjoy it. God, again, like I said, Vince has never sang half decent for 25 years anyways. Right. So again, I'll see when I go how it is.
So Brett's singing okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Apparently he's singing all right.
That's great. I know CC DeVille he's a hell of a lot better guitar player today than he was years ago. I'll tell you that much.
Yes. Yeah. He I think he realized that. I was reading something too, things you forget that, the MTV Awards, I think back in 90 something, I'll maybe say 97, they went on stage and he played I remember watching it. He was playing a different song than the band was playing. And it's all out there on the net, but I just remember that it was just, what are you doing? Yeah, he was a mess, but he knew he was a mess. He knew he was a hack. And eventually he figured it out. I got to get good here. Come on, man. You got a lucky break. The Poison, all those bands, it's luck and timing to get where you're at. And that's where they were.
Yeah. Well, this Andy McCoy, man, he's got no love for Molly. He made a recent appearance on the Waste Some Time podcast. And speaking about the show, she says, their 25th goodbye tour or something, fucking ripoffs, he says. Now, when it was noted that Andy is so open about his feelings about Motley Crue, McCoy said, I speak the truth, mate. I don't lie like Nikki Sixx through my fucking teeth. Now, he was also asked about how he feels about Motley Crue naming their new box set Music to Crash Your Car To, which she said, wow. He said, I thought, and Michael Monroe thought that was the tackiest title, thinking about what had happened. That was in really tacky bad taste. If you're European like me, it's something you don't do. You respect other people. You just don't want to make a buck for yourself. You respect other people. Now, of course, he's referring to the accident that Vince Neil got into with Razzle Dingley back in December of '84. Took Razzle's life. Razzle lost his life. Vince pretty much walked out with a few scratches.
Yeah, and two other people I think are maimed for the rest of their life.
Yeah, two other people for the rest of their lives were affected. Yeah, and people don't even really talk about those two other people much.
No, they don't. Yeah, no one really talks about that incident at all. It's kind of forgotten because, again, so much time has gone on. I think Andy McCoy, just from what you're saying there, I've never read this, but I would imagine he's very bitter because Hanoi Rocks, I read a really cool little article about them a while ago. They were on the rise and, they were breaking into the States. They were a really hard working band back in the day. And again, everyone said, you guys are never going to amount to anything, but this is over in Scandinavia and over in Europe. When they got over to England and stuff like that, they just played and played and played. And they finally got over here to play, I think it was the Whiskey. And that week that happened at Razzle, that Vince Neil killed Razzle in the car accident, it ended their career. It ended the band. They never got to play. They never got to play.
Yeah.
But they even said, they said the landscape of LA rock kind of changed. And this was interesting. And I kind of believe this when GNR came out, very similar image to Hanoi Rocks. And, I think it was Andy McCoy or maybe Sammy Yaffa. I think it was Sam Yaffa who ended up playing with the Dolls in the reunion. He was in Jet Boy after Hanoi Rocks and stuff. But they got lumped into this hair band thing, and they were the farthest thing from it. They were like a street rock thing. And Sammy Yaffa goes, we were more of a hat band. And if you look at all the pictures, it's funny, but if you look at all the pictures, they're all wearing, cool fedoras and bowlers and little top hats too. And he goes, we weren't a hair band coming out of LA. We were the farthest thing from it. We were into drugs, living on the street. I told you some of the stuff of them recording in Toronto. And I was talking to one of the producers. I'm not sure Back to Mystery City or one of those records. And it was just drugs. I mean, that's what they were doing. I mean, and for me, knowing about them and growing up, it wasn't my thing musically. They were kind of rock and rolly and sort of sloppy. They weren't the Halen, they weren't Kiss. It was a little different sort of rock stuff. But it was Vince Neil who ended that band basically when Razzle died. They were supposed to play an outlet. They never even got to play. Could have been the Troubadour or one of those places, but that's why I think he's bitter too, because you ruined my career, our career, because Hani Rocks was on the rise. And I mean, if you talk to Axl Rose and Duff McKagan, I think it's Welcome to the Jungle. That is sort of paraphrased, at least from what this article I said that they were referencing, is paraphrased from a Hani Rocks song, and I can't remember the name. It could be Welcome to something, but he does say Welcome to the Jungle as a lyric line. And that's what Axl Rose has said. He goes, I kind of got that line from Hani Rocks. Anyways, that's just, if you do some Googling and reading, you'll find all that stuff out. But it's interesting, man. But that's why I think Andy's bitter. And I don't blame him. But to say music to crash your car by, come on, man. That's
I mean, I don't know if they're intending on glorifying that incident or not, but it certainly seems so. I mean, that's just tacky.
Even if it's not, it's just, you got to be aware of that. Music to crash. I don't know, man. I mean, if none of that happened, sure, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
But no, you've got this history from, 30 some odd years ago. Yeah. And not cool, man. But I don't see, or I don't blame Andy McCoy, speaking out. He's definitely he's got something to say on that. And I bet he's a little bitter with everything, the way it's played out. Motley Crue went out on to be superstars, and Hani Rocks broke up.
Yeah. Well, Michael Monroe's still going. I think he just released some new music recently. He's still going, but I think Hani Rocks they never really hit that zenith here in North America that Motley did, so.
Yeah, because of that was it. Again, I don't know if they would have. I don't think they had the songs, the Sign of the Times songs back then, where Motley and then Poison came out and GNR. It was just different, more raucous. I don't know. Like if you listen to Hani Rocks, you'll see what I mean. It's more of like this rock and roll street sort of,
like Heartbreak Boulevard and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's the vibe. It wasn't Shout at the Devil or anything like that. It was just a different vibe. Or Dokken. The stuff that was coming out was, I don't know, a little more aggressive and metally, for lack of better words. Let me touch on this. I don't know about this Pantera, man.
Yeah, that's a big thing that a lot of people are talking about right now. I think calling it Pantera is not right. I've always said, call it Cowboys from Hell, a tribute to the music of Pantera or something like that. Don't go out as Pantera just because you got Rex and Phil there, because Rex and Phil were in Down together and that wasn't Pantera. You know what I mean?
It's a cash grab to me. Again, if you know the backstory on this, you'll say no. If you don't care, then it doesn't matter. If you don't understand it, it doesn't matter. It's all sort of the backstory. Yeah. With the two brothers, it was their band. They started it. When Vinnie was alive, he had many opportunities to put this thing together, and he always said no. It's my brother and me, and no disrespect to anybody else, but no, the band is my brother. And
you and I, we should clarify, you and I especially you knew Vinnie quite well. I know Vinnie as well. I interviewed him as well many times, and even when I asked him about it, I mean, the way he explained it to me was, you can't. It's like, it would be like having a Van Halen reunion without Eddie Van Halen.
Totally.
And I know that Vinnie was not for it at all. He was not anywhere near open to having any sort of Pantera reunion.
No, and he did not get along with Phil or Rex. Just stuff that I know, just hanging out. I remember I was with Kirk Winstein from Down and Crowbar.
Yep.
And they had just played. We were at the Brooklyn Bowl here in Vegas. And I ran into Kurt and he goes, "Hey, Johnny, man, can I come over and hang with you guys?" And it was just, nothing to do with you. It all has to correlate around Phil. Whatever went down behind the scenes is not cool. And Vin was just like, "Look, I just want to stay away from it." And I respected that. I get it. Yeah. And so did Kirk. He goes, "I get it, man. That's cool. I just wanted to say hi." And so coming full circle with this reunion thing, everyone loves hearing the guy singing those songs, or screaming those tunes. But at the end of the day, it's Dimebag and Vinnie. It was their band.
Yeah, it was the Abbott brothers, man.
It was their band, and I mean Rex. He's written a book. I think he carved those guys.
Yeah.
But now that's what I mean. It's just a cash grab. They're not around to say no, but they're going to do it. And apparently, the estates.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, the estate, like Rita, and then that's Dimes X or whenever they were together, and then the estate of Vinnie Paul. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not privy to all of this stuff, but I just don't like it. Personally, myself, I don't think. Yes, go out there and play the music. That's cool, but you can't call it a Pantera.
Yeah, just don't call it Pantera. I mean, I think that Zakk Wylde is the best choice, of course, to do it, because not only because of his relationship with Dime, but of course the guy shreds and he can play that stuff. Charlie Benante as well, a great drummer in Anthrax. I mean, is he Vinnie Paul? No, but he's a great drummer. Just don't call it Pantera. That's what really sticks in there for me. It's kind of something just doesn't sit right.
Yeah, go out there. I agree. I mean, if it was ever going to happen back then when Vinnie was alive, it would have been Zakk would have stepped in gracefully and done it. And that, to me, because Vinnie would have okayed that. But again, it didn't happen for a reason. It didn't happen. But that was the closest it could have. So,
and all the time that you hung out with Vinnie Paul, did you ever come straight out and ask him about reuniting with Phil and Rex?
Yeah, not like straight out, but it was conversation. It was, but something you wouldn't want to bring up because it always dealt with his brother. And I would never talk about his brother unless he started talking about it. Yeah. But yes, it was always, no, that'll never happen. I knew that. It'll never happen. Yeah. So yeah, this should be called,
Cowboys from Hell is a great name, or call it Vulgar Display of Power or something, they'll
look at that as a tribute band. It should be a tribute to Pantera. I don't know how you can word this, but you can't, and I don't think you should call it Pantera because it's not Pantera, dude.
Well, I mean, then that kind of brings it back around to Kiss, because Kiss, you've got, they lost their guitar player and their drummer, but they're still going out as Kiss. But mind you, Kiss, in my opinion, has become a Kiss cover band. It's kind of funny how it kind of the opinion kind of sways a bit from one band to another,
It really does. I think the difference being Gene and Paul were the curators of that band. Gene and Paul write and sing 90-something% of the music. And I think how this has transitioned over the years, it hasn't been brutal as, say, what Pantera, two brothers die, and now you're going to go out there and do this. It's a different way of things happening. Everyone's still alive in Kiss. They could go out there with Ace Frehley and Peter Criss. I would love to see that. As bad as it would be, I think it would be amazing. Right? But it's a different animal. Again, it would be like comparing the Van Halen thing. Let's go out as Van Halen. Well, where's Eddie Van Halen?
Yeah, that's why I think that why you said Let It Lie and why I agree with you there too. I mean, Joe Satriani, a phenomenal guitar player, but he's just not Eddie.
That's just, to me, that again, I'm a super huge Van Halen Roth era fan. I wouldn't even go to that. That's just gross to me.
Yeah,
it's just gross.
I can relate to you, man. I mean, I'd be curious to see what they did with it. I mean, I think it would be awesome if Wolfgang got involved somehow. But I mean, he doesn't really like touching his father's legacy, which I respect completely.
I think that's cool, dude. Good for him.
Because he's fantastic in his own right, man. Wolfgang has proven himself to be an incredible musician.
Absolutely, absolutely. Guitar plays everything. But yeah, he's awesome. Good kid. Everything's good. But yeah, leave that Van Halen thing alone. And the Pantera stuff, I think it's cool. Just don't call it Pantera. Go out there and tribute that band, your friends, but you can't call it Pantera.
All right, don't forget, check out loadedradio.com for all your hard rock and metal news, constantly updated 24/7. Also, the live radio station, it's streaming there, or wherever you get your radio streams in as well. Don't forget, you can catch other episodes of this very podcast, the Loaded Radio Podcast, and so much more. It's all just a click away at loadedradio.com. Okay, we'll talk to you again next week right here for a brand new edition of the Loaded Radio Podcast. I'm Scott Penfold. We'll talk to you then.
Loaded Radio.